In 1997, it took 14 days for Thailand's currency to lose more than half of its value. In 2001, Argentina's savings were frozen overnight. In 1931, the British pound, the world's reserve currency, fell in a single shattering week. And each time, the people said the same words. No one warned us. But what if they were warned? What if every collapse follows the same hidden rule? A silent mechanism as old as empires, buried under centuries of debt, war, and power. Because the truth is this: currencies don't collapse when the numbers stop adding up. They collapse when the system that controls them pulls the final thread. And today, that same invisible pattern is tightening around the global dollar system. Is this just history? Or is it the mirror we're afraid to look into? To understand the collapses of today, we must return to where the architecture was first drawn. 1694. London. The Bank of England is born not as a protector of the people, but as a machine for war financing. A simple promise: lend money to the crown, in exchange for the power to create currency from nothing but trust and parchment. This was the first blueprint of the modern collapse cycle. The engine was elegant and dangerous. Debt created money. Money created more debt. And debt could be weaponized. Then came the fractional reserve system. Banks keeping only a fraction of deposits, lending out the rest, multiplying money far beyond the gold that backed it. It looked like prosperity, but it was a great illusion. 1910. Jekyll Island. A private meeting of bankers and politicians designs the Federal Reserve, the most powerful central bank in the world. Their motive was simple: control the money, control the credit, control the cycle. 1971. Nixon, shocked. The final anchor is cut. The dollar is no longer tied to gold. Now, currency becomes pure confidence and pure debt. But hidden in this new system was a fatal rule, one that every emerging economy would soon learn. If your debt is owed in someone else's currency, your collapse is only a matter of time. They called it the creditor trap. Borrow dollars. Defend your currency. Lose your reserves. Then fall fast, silent, unforgiving. But was this a flaw? Or was it engineered to work exactly this way? Across 2 centuries, the pattern repeated with the precision of a trap closing. Stage 1. Abundant credit. Banks flood emerging nations with cheap loans. It feels like growth. It feels like progress. Stage 2. Currency defense. To keep confidence high, governments spend reserves, dollars, gold, to defend their exchange rate. Stage 3. The outflow. Foreign creditors pulled back. Capital flees. Reserves thinned to dangerous levels. Stage 4. The breaking point. The central bank cannot defend the currency anymore. Confidence collapses. Panic begins. Stage 5. The fast fall. The value evaporates. Savings shrink. Imports spike. Governments beg creditors for lifelines. Stage 6. The seizure. Institutions like the IMF arrive with conditions. Policies change. Assets are sold. Sovereignty shifts. Stage 7. The transfer. Foreign powers buy local assets for fractions of their value. The cycle resets. But now, the control lies elsewhere. This was Britain in 1931. This was Asia in 1997. This was Argentina in 2001. And today, this is the world under the dollar. Global dollar-denominated debt has passed $100 trillion. 40 countries are running dangerously low on foreign reserves. Central banks are buying gold like a storm is coming. If the pattern has repeated for 200 years, what stage are we in now? Every chart, every reserve report, every credit cycle points to the same conclusion. We are entering stage 5, the global breaking point. The question now is chilling. If the dollar system is the center of the pattern, what happens when the epicenter begins to shake? Every empire believed its currency was different. Stronger, smarter, exceptionally immune. They were all wrong. Because collapse is not chaos. It is sequence. And once the sequence begins, it doesn't reverse. It only accelerates. The architecture built in 1694. The illusions crafted in 1910. The unshackling of 1971. All lead here to a world drowning in foreign currency. Debt defending exchange rates with reserves that are quietly disappearing. The rule is not complicated. It is brutal in its simplicity. A currency collapses when its promises exceed its power. The nations that see the pattern prepare. The nations that don't repeat the past. And you, watching this, must ask yourself, if history doesn't repeat perfectly, but it rhymes, are you listening to the rhyme? When a currency collapses, the first shock is never the crash itself, but the silence that follows. People wake up to prices that no longer make sense, as if someone rewrote the value of everything overnight. Governments rush to impose emergency controls, freezing bank withdrawals and limiting foreign exchange. The middle class, once stable and protected, becomes the first casualty of the new financial reality. Savings evaporate with the speed of a match flame, leaving families with numbers that mean nothing. Foreign creditors arrive like calm negotiators, offering stabilization plans that mask a deeper power shift. National assets, sports, utilities, land, energy quietly move into foreign hands during restructuring. Politicians present these deals as necessary sacrifices, but the public rarely understands who benefits. Austerity begins as a temporary solution and ends as a long-term operating system for the country. Government ministries shrink, social programs dissolve, and wages stagnate for an entire generation. The nation enters what economists call a recovery phase. But life on the ground feels like managed decline. Foreign investors soon return, attracted by discounted assets and cheap labor conditions. For the elite, collapse becomes an opportunity. For the masses, it becomes a permanent wound. Debt restructuring turns into dependence, anchoring the country to the institutions that rescued it. The aftermath cycle ends only when a new global boom lifts the nation agonor, when the next crisis arrives. Today, the entire world is repeating the same patterns that once destroyed smaller economies. Global debt has reached levels no previous empire or financial system has ever survived. Central banks insist they have the tools to control inflation, yet they quietly fear losing the narrative. Nations stockpile foreign reserves as if preparing for an invisible storm already forming offshore. Investors search for safe havens, moving capital in waves that destabilize weaker currencies. Politicians blame external enemies, but the real threat is the internal fragility built over decades. Even major powers now rely on borrowed money to maintain living standards and political calm. Economic updates feel like weather forecasts monitored daily, accepted as forces beyond human control. Digital payments and online banking hide the instability, creating the illusion of a smooth system. But beneath the surface, cracks appear in the form of liquidity shortages and silent capital flight. Countries once thought invincible now face the same pressures that brought down entire regions in the past. The global economy moves in synchronized cycles, meaning a collapse in one major market spreads instantly. The hidden rule behind every currency collapse has not changed, only the scale has. And this time, the world may not be watching a local crisis, but the opening chapter of a global one. If you've made it this far, you already understand something most people never will. The past is not gone, it's encoded into the system we live in. And every cycle, every collapse, every transfer of power, follows the same architecture. But awareness is the first form of protection. Because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. And once you understand the rule, you can prepare long before the next trigger hits. So, if you want to keep decoding these hidden financial mechanisms, stay with this archive of truth. There are more patterns to uncover, more warnings buried in history's shadows, and more secrets that the powerful hope you never learn.